if somebody would say to you, well, you're going to have to trade a handicap for no baggage, you'd be like, yeah, yeah, the handicap's tough, but the no baggage thing's very attractive.
Welcome to another CG garage where the monstrous moon shines. We're building new Hollywood like in 1971's prime. From Altair's bold dreams to AI's fever dream, where tech meets the silver or an LED screen. Pixels and passion, our pipelines are known to host one show on a deadline postponed.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 549, featuring Bill Warner, who is the founder of Avid Technology. He is also an angel investor and a chairman and lead investor at Lightcraft Technology, a fantastic company, and that's actually how I ended up meeting Bill through our mutual friend, Mr. Elliot Mack, who has not been on the podcast yet, but I promise you Elliot will be on. Also a fascinating person. Bill is a very warm, interesting, and genuine person, and he has talks about his life in a very, very honest way, including some incredible hardships that he suffered. He is paraplegic, suffered an accident when he was a teenager, and entirely changed his focus on life, which led to all the things that he's been doing today. So really great person and an amazing inspiration to all of us in terms of what we can do with our lives when we are met with those types of hardships. I'm fascinated by what they're doing. He invented Avid because something had to be invented, and it seems that he is inspired by what Elliot is doing over at Lightcraft, and they are inventing things because they have to be invented in terms of the craft of filmmaking. So really great stuff. They've got a new tool called Spark, which is absolutely fascinating, and it's definitely something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to, especially over at Monsters Moonshine in the development of our June, July stuff as well. So really cool stuff. So stay tuned. In terms of events, I will be at AI on the Lot this week. So if you guys happen to be at AI on the Lot, I'd love to say hello. Come on by and say hi. And I will be at SIGGRAPH, of course. SIGGRAPH is a few months away, but it's always a big event for us. And, let's do that. So I'd love to see if you guys are going to be at SIGGRAPH. Give me a heads up and let me know. In terms of the podcast, you guys know how to reach us. It is podcast@cggarage.com. You, of course, can reach us on our YouTube page as well, youtube.com/@cggaragepodcast. That's a great place to do it there. And of course, if you'd like to have a longer discussion with us, our Discord is fairly active. Just go to cggarage.com/Discord, and that'll redirect you to the Monstrous Moonshine Discord, where we have all kinds of discussions, including, obviously, a lot of discussions about the podcast. But for now, please enjoy episode number 549 with Bill Warner.
This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by CenterGrid Virtual Studio. Wondering why you went to film school just to be stuck managing hardware life cycles? CenterGrid delivers end-to-end GPU-accelerated cloud workstations built specifically for VFX and creative production, with flat, predictable pricing and personalized support from people who actually get your workflow. Plus, CenterGrid is TPN Gold Shield certified, so your studio's security is locked down. Check out what Virtual Studio can do for your pipeline at cgvirtualstudio.com. This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by Kitbash 3D, one of our favorite tools and an essential tool for 3D artists everywhere. With the largest library of cinematic quality, production-ready 3D assets, Kitbash 3D ensures that your studio has the tools to build stunning environments quickly, efficiently, and at scale. Design detailed worlds in a fraction of the time without compromising on quality. Head to kitbash3d.com and use the code CGGarage at checkout for 10% off any kit. Again, that's kitbash3d.com, code CGGarage.
Bill, thank you so much for being on. I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a long time, not just because of the amazing stuff you've been doing over at Lightcraft, but also because you've obviously had a history in this industry and technology for a long time that I believe, sort of might have been the catalyst to start the independent film revolution of the 1990s. And I strongly believe that what you did was very, very important for that time. And I believe that we're now in a period where we need that technical revolution again. And so let's start with how the heck did you get into the media and entertainment industry? What interested did you in that? What was your tech background?
Well, so when I went to college, I went to I looked at a bunch of schools. I got into all of them, including Duke was my big school.
Right.
And I went to Duke with my dad, and I said to my dad, "They don't look happy. People here just don't look happy." And so I ended up going to, believe it or not, was one of my safety schools, which was Washington University. And now Washington University is like Harvard.
Yeah. Right.
But back in those days, it was different. And I had a very exacting criteria for which school I would go to, and that was that Washington University had co-ed dorms. So not only were they co-ed, the next door to you was a girl.
Prioritizing. That's what it's all about. Prioritizing.
Wait, so what year was this? Because that was kind of a new thing, I guess, for a little bit,
I think it was a pretty new thing.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, could this even work?
Mm-hmm.
And that was I graduated in 73. So,
okay. Yeah. It's a very new.
I went to university in 74. But I tell this story for people who are out there trying to figure out what they want to do. And I had no idea, absolutely no idea. And, I decided that, I decided that I would go into economics. My father had his own business. Economics sounded like a good idea. I had no idea what it even was. And I started doing things like I decided that a good student of economics would read the Wall Street Journal every day and cut out the little section in the middle and put it in a notebook. Why? I don't know. But this is what I thought.
This is what you do.
This is what I thought I should do. And then in 74, February 74, so I'm paraplegic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it happened. And everybody looks at me, they see me with a wheelchair or crutches, and they, they think, oh, poor guy, sort of. And the reality, though, was that it actually unleashed me, unhinged me. It took away these limitations that I put on myself. My father never said I should become a economist. My mother, nobody said that. I just came up with it.
Sure.
But so I really had a lot of stuff that was sort of, I decided ought to be. And so, it's winter, hit some ice, hit a tree. Nobody was at fault, no lawsuits to be available. And I end up in the hospital in New York at NYU Medical Center, which is the top place for being a paraplegic or quadriplegic. And I remember there was a point in time where I just was so angry. And I was now doing PT. I was sort of recovering somewhat. And so there's this big box was in my room. And I started destroying the box. I just was just smashing it with whatever I could, just wrecking this whole box. And, I had a psychiatrist named Dr. Kim, Dr. Peter Kim. And so the nurses call Peter Kim, and they say, he's destroying a box. And and I'll show you how this actually relates to how I got into this, because it does. So, and he says, is he hurting anyone? And they go, no. Is anyone upset by this? It's like, no. He said, well, just leave him alone. And
destroy the box.
Yeah, destroy the box.
He's got some issues he needs to deal with. Let him get it out.
Right. I did. But it was literally at that moment where I decided I could not keep the baggage. And the picture I had was of an airplane with one of those side doors open and just shoving boxes and boxes and boxes of crap that I somehow put in the plane. Like, why the hell did I do that? I don't know. But they were in the plane, and I just got rid of them.
Yep.
And from that day forward, really, and now for my whole life, I've never had baggage. I really
incredible.
haven't.
That's an incredible way to put it.
And, if somebody would say to you, well, you're going to have to trade a handicap for no baggage, and be like, yeah, yeah, the handicap's tough, but the no baggage thing's very attractive.
Yeah. Yep.
So
if you hadn't destroyed that box, then you would have been cutting out middle of Wall Street Journal right now.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, that's right. Or I might have been a famous unhappy economist.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so at that time they had 4 people in a room at NYU, and one of the, and 18-year-olds are very. That's who gets to be paraplegics. It's like you can get in the club if you're 18. And Tom Ward was in my room. He was 18. I was 18. And Tom Ward was a quadriplegic, close to what's his name? Christopher Reeve was.
Right.
Christopher Reeve was higher level, it was worse. But so anyway, one day, Tom is sitting, he has a phone cradled. He can't really actually do that much with it, but he's talking to his girlfriend, and he's having this conversation, and then he's done, and he's saying to the hotel, no, I have to call it the hotel operator, it's a hospital operator, but he's saying to the hospital, no, I can't hang up. No, I can't do this. They're sort of saying, just hang up, and he couldn't do it. And it was, I think that life is a series of moments that get you. And you either follow those moments or you don't follow the moments. And I spent a lot of my time and career trying to teach people to follow those moments. And that moment, I said, I'm going to do something for Tom. I don't know what it is. So I bought a whistle system, a whistle switch. This thing you squeeze the bulb and it would turn the light on and off. They're pretty old. I mean, probably predate even you guys. But I bought it for him, hung the whistle up so that he could get to it and put a light on it, and he whistled. And just, seeing him light up the way he did on that, it just got me. Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm going to make something that will control more things somehow. And I ended up making something called the Whistle System, Whistle System 3 it was called. And it worked. It would work by whistling, just by blowing with your mouth. You didn't need anything. And it would control 9 different things. And it eventually made its way into the Inventors Hall of Fame recently in Washington, D.C. And the funny thing is that they made a 70s room in the museum to have all the stuff this would control, all the 70s phone stuff, 70s TV. Right. It was amazing.
So dated technology to showcase how that technology worked in a way, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing.
And they're a great organization. And the guy who runs it technically, he said, do you have one of these? I said, yeah, but it's, it's like 40, 50 years old. It doesn't work. He took the thing apart, took the chips out of the board, put new chips in. I mean, it was an act of love and got it working. So I have it working.
Awesome.
So this may be too long an answer, but
no,
that's fascinating. It's awesome.
Okay, so but this is the actual connective tissue of how I got here. So meanwhile, I start building this whistle switch, and I start and I don't know the pace. I mean, I have lots of funny stories that I can tell along the way, or is it get to the point? What do you tell me?
Do whatever you want, man.
You do whatever. Okay, we have time. We have as long as you want.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, because some of these stories are just great. So, I get out of the hospital and I'm at home, and my dad had a company that made aluminum extrusions, basically the raw material that went into aluminum bats, aluminum tennis rackets, the sides of windows and all that stuff, storm windows. And he said to me, one day, this guy came to my place and he wanted to make an IBM channel switch, which is actually a very high-tech thing. And he said, you should go see him. Now, at this point, I'm 19. And when you're 19 and your dad says you should go see him, the answer is no. right? I'm not going to go see this guy. I don't know who he is. My dad is asking me to go. I'm not doing that. However, I had just gotten a car and I had got hand controls, and this was it was a 1974 Chevy Monte Carlo, and the hood. If you were in New Jersey, the hood would go to New York. I mean, the hood was that long,
right?
And it had swivel bucket seats. It was the coolest thing. And I was like, "Well, this is
an engine in it too." Actually,
it did. Sure, I had a V8. Yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, I had a '73 Fleetwood or some around there.
Oh, the car's like huge.
It was like a battleship, man. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to be turning in a couple of blocks. So I better
the Monte Carlo and the Barracuda, all those cars were amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so I figure, okay, this is a 45-minute ride to where he is. The guy's name was John Bell. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go there. So I go up there with my car with the long hood and I park. And it turns out that John Bell is down this driveway, which is so steep. If you went down it forward with a wheelchair, you would just flip forward over.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's how steep it was. But so I turned around, went backwards, and there's no door. There's just a garage door. So I knock on the garage door. I'm knocking on the garage door, and then all of a sudden, boom, the door's going up, and I look in there, and it was bright outside and hard to see. So it was something like darkness, like you just couldn't see anything. But I could see there were big cables. I did see that. So I go in there, and it turns out that he used to be at IBM, and what he had a business of selling the cables that went to the channel switch. Now, I'm telling you, a cable to the channel switch is like this big,
Right.
And a new one from IBM probably costs, $40,000 or something.
Right.
And he sold used ones. But because of that, he also learned about the channel switch, which is it's like the little, adapter. So like if you want to hook up a printer to your mainframe, to print bills, and then you want to print something else to something else, the switch would do it. And it was like really expensive. He wasn't making these things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was an expert in digital electronics. Mm-hmm. Now, I had made a system that was mechanical relays, to do this thing for Tom. So I get in there, I sit down with him, and I tell him what I want to do. And I swear, maybe this is my memory, but I swear this is pretty accurate. He goes to his shelf, he stands up, he goes and gets this white book. It's like this thick. And this is a guy with a deep Southern accent. Mm-hmm. He hands me this white book, and he said, "Son, this is all you need. Everything you need is in this book. This is the 7400 series digital chip guidebook."
Right.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know anything. And he's like, "Jim over there, just go see Jim. Sit at that desk at the workbench. He said, Jim will show you." Mm-hmm. So from the minute that he stood up and handed me this thing to the time I was sitting down at the workbench doing this stuff was minutes. Mm-hmm. I sat down with this guy and said, "What do you want to make?" And I said, "I need like a display that puts a number and it just keeps going. And then when you whistle, it's going to do that number." Okay. That's what it's going to do. He's like, "Okay." And he's got this whole thing of all these parts, and he just like takes things out of the parts, puts it on this breadboard, connects it together, and the thing lights up. And I said, "Well, I need it to count." He's like, "Oh, I need a counter." Gets a counter, puts it in, wires up the counter. And I said, "But it needs to go like, once a second." He's like, "Oh, I need a timer." He gets a timer, connects it together, and then like sets it for one second. And it's like, there it is. From the time that John Bell told me this to the time that we had an LED number going around on this breadboard, it was minutes.
Oh, that's
wow.
Right.
I was like, I had never seen a chip. I didn't know they existed.
Right.
And meanwhile, I am now making these things with this guy. And it was one of the biggest transformations. And like, what was John Bell thinking that he could like get me to go from nothing to digital circuits instantly? But he did.
Well, but it changed how you thought about solving these problems.
It changed everything.
Yeah, right.
It was hard to ever describe what that meant. And I went back and started designing with digital circuits.
It's like the original vibe coding.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well,
exactly.
actually, I'm going to tell you a story. You say you have time. You may regret that, but
no chance.
No chance.
all right, but you'll get like all the stories. But so anyway, that was it. My life changed. I was in digital.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so I had made these. I actually had made this mechanical 110 volt version of the whistle system for Tom, and I showed it to my parents my parents had these Nakashima tables. Now Nakashima is now worth like a fortune. They had one of these. I put it on the table, and I said, "Look, you whistle, and it starts counting. It goes doot doot as mechanical making." Mm-hmm. And I say, and then you whistle again, and it stops and does the thing. So I whistled again, and it like blew up.
Yep. Right.
It just the smoke. The lights went out in the house.
Classic.
The smoke. And here's this like beautiful designer table with this machine that's now smoking. And to credit to my parents, they weren't worried. But so so it was John Bell who said, no, you shouldn't do it that way. You should do it, digital, which I ended up doing.
Right.
So I ended up designing this thing, and I want to tell a story because it relates. It's one of the things I say to people is that, like, you think, for example, if you have a problem, you should do all the research you could possibly do before you talk to somebody else. But that's not true. Your problem is their fun, right? Mm-hmm. So,
right.
Very often. So meanwhile, I was one Friday night, I'm working on this whole digital whistle system thing. And all of a sudden the display, which was a nice bright number, all of a sudden went dim. And I went and looked at it on the scope, and it was oscillating. Everything was just oscillating. And I looked at every chip was oscillating. Mm-hmm. Like the entire thing had gone nuts. And I'm like, oh, come on. So I'm always somebody that kind of, likes to do stuff with other people. And I was also flying. I had been a pilot. And so I had flying contacts. So I'm like, who would know what's going on in this? Who would know? And I was like, well, some engineer. I need to get to an engineer who knows this stuff. So I go and open the book, and it's I'm looking at avionics. I'm like, oh, avionics. I could probably talk to somebody there. So I call up this company, Boonton Avionics. It's like 20 miles away. I call, and this is a day where you could just call up. Person answers the phone, and I said, "Can I speak with your chief engineer?" And
sure,
and she says, "Yeah. Bob is here. And so I get on the phone. He's like, Bob Wilson. I get on the phone with him. I said, "Mr. Wilson, I am a student. I'm 20 years old. I've made a circuit board with 40 chips, and it's gone completely nuts. It's oscillating." And he said, "Oh, okay. Well, what did you do with the unused inputs?" And I said, "I tied them all up to a resistor, just like it says." He said, "How many did you tie to one resistor?" And I said, 20, just like it says in the book. He said, "That's your problem." He said, "They're all feeding back on each other. Mm-hmm. Make it 5, and you'll be fine." Right. That was it. That's about how long the conversation was.
Right.
Right. But I went back and redid it at 5, and it worked perfectly ever after.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the story there is that, and I try to tell people this, that when you have a problem, that's a benefit to someone else. Mm-hmm. So don't look at it as some terrible problem.
And it may even be a benefit to you. Like it may give you perspective on what you're doing.
It does. And also a perspective on what other people can tell you.
Right.
I mean, This guy, that's the first question he asked. And he said, the book is wrong.
Yep. Right.
He said, 20 is terrible. Mm-hmm. So, it's a big learning experience. But how did this get me all the way over here to Avid and to Lightcraft? So what happened is, we have to have one more detour, which is I had this whistle system, and it had like 40 chips, and it was like ready to be UL approved. It was a really nice looking thing, and it worked really well. And
I'm assuming you weren't studying economics at Washington University.
that was over. Yeah. Well, I left there. I was done there.
Right.
I was studying handicap, issues.
Right.
But then I actually was at a 2-year school for a while. And so then, and then my dad actually, I was going to sell this whistle system. And so my dad said, we got to look at, the market for it. And he was a smart guy. And we went and looked and did research. And he came back to me and said, there's no market for this. You're not going to make any money. All right. This is a terrible business. And I'm not putting another dime into it. He had put a fair amount of money. And he said, and I was thinking, I was really pissed, because I had worked for years on this thing, but I kind of knew he was right. And he said, you need to go back to school, because I only had the 2-year degree. And I was pissed also, but I knew he was right. So my sister was in Boston, so I applied to schools in Boston. And then I thought, well, if I'm applying in Boston, I'll apply to MIT also. I'll never get in. Look at all the criteria they have. I met none of them. Absolutely not a single one. Grade point average, test scores, this, that, nothing. All right. But so I applied anyway. But nobody else had a whistle system with 40 chips that was working.
Yeah.
And MIT is kind of like, well, wait a minute, this is interesting. So I got in.
Amazing.
And I'm like, holy cow, if I got in, I should go there.
And everyone I know, I've worked with lots of people from MIT, and I would say that almost all of them are exactly the same as you're describing, which is just like, yeah, there's the stats that you would expect to get into like prestigious schools like this, and people should look at that and be aware of what they're up against. But what they really want is super interesting nerds.
Right. Well, I think that's true, but I used to have a game that I played at MIT. I was much more gregarious than like every one of the people at MIT. So I used to go up to and say, "Hi, I'm Bill. Were you one or two?" And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Were you first or second in your class?" And they'd be like, "First." Right. Yeah, so you could say there were those people, but I was 34th, so I was well away from from anything there. So I got into MIT, and that was another thing that changed my life. Just absolutely changed it. And I figured out, I was not really a high-powered nerd. They had really high-powered nerds, and
they got.
But I learned how to work the system, and I ended up with good grades. Okay, but so now we need to get me to graduating MIT. So while I was at MIT, I made these I bought a hand pedal bike because I wanted to really move around a lot. It was great. And then there were things I wanted to improve on it. So I made my senior thesis as a hand pedal bike in mechanical engineering, actually. And that was great. And when I got out, I actually had a little company called New England Hand Cycles. And for 10 years, we actually made these hand cycles. But my view was I wanted some way to design these things. And so the top company was called Computer Vision. And I got a job there, actually in manufacturing. And what my thought was I get that job and I can on the side design my hand cycles. And they had 3D, solid modeling, all this stuff. I was like, this is great. I get free massive amounts of CAD, and they pay me too. So I went there, and I actually hired a guy at the company to teach me how to use the 3D CAD. So we're doing that. And he basically said, there's one thing you should know about this 3D system. It doesn't work. I'm like, what? He's like, well, it's, eventually it'll work, but it doesn't work now. And you can't design anything on your bike using this. I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh.
He's like, no, I'm not kidding you. But I always wanted to be able to design things and be able to think about things at the beginning and not have to I wanted to know how it would go together. And so we'll skip right over Avid and we'll go to Lightcraft, but that's what Lightcraft is about. It's, and don't make it sound scary, but it's like CAD for movies. You're going to, and it's actually like CAD CAM for movies, where you're going to figure out your story, and then you're going to use automation to make that story at a massively higher rate and higher quality than you ever could. And, and I love that. I just, whenever I see this stuff and there's stuff we're doing now, but what we're going to do is off the chart.
This is the thing with Lightcraft, and how it it's a clear evolution from the story you're telling about how you got there, because the story of getting mad at the box and tearing the box apart, right, is essentially how I think that most indie filmmakers feel about crossing over into making movies. Like there is a barrier there, and it's a mental barrier. Like it's like there's the studios, there's the whatever, there's all this extra crazy, very difficult stuff that I will never understand, and they accept. And I've been guilty of this myself. They accept the limitations that are described for them, And once you choose to accept those limitations, there you are snipping stuff out of the Wall Street Journal for a job. That's what most filmmakers end up doing. And when you clear that out of people's minds and say, you don't have to think about, the problem isn't this. The problem is you want to be here. You want to be one step further.
Right.
And figuring out how to put your mind there is how you make the movie. That's how you get it done.
Exactly. And you need people that, you remember the old game Hyperspace?
Yeah.
What was it called? It was what?
This is the vector game?
Asteroids, right?
Asteroids. Yeah.
And they had the Hyperspace button.
Yep.
Now, by what you were saying there, I should have had to have graduated engineering school and then maybe start designing the whistle system. But John Bell just Hyperspace.
We can figure this out. Yeah. Right. We can put that together with
and
this.
He
and
was
make
so
this.
confident. Yeah. And he was so right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think if you can do that for people in your life, it's a great gift.
Yeah.
To press the Hyperspace button for them.
Yeah.
The other analogy that you had
is
specifically when you had a problem, right? And instead of going, I don't know how to solve this problem because it's not in the book, just call someone.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And you'd be surprised how often that happens, and how, people call me and ask me questions all the time, and it happens all the time. Yeah. And there are things that are not in the book, right?
Yeah.
Or not on the internet.
This was not in the book. A lot of people at MIT, I noticed, would never call the guy. I would ask questions in lecture. The guy's up there going blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't understand that. What are you talking about? And everybody looked like, what? But they didn't understand it either. And the guy would answer it, and then it was good.
Yeah, they didn't want to put themselves out there as being,
they couldn't. I would just my mother was a real estate agent. She was very forward, very good at reading people, very good at public speaking. Okay, so basically what we've done is we jumped from MIT, getting out of MIT, and then computer vision, CAD, and then all the way. So you're looking at 1980 to today. So it's a 46-year jump,
right?
That we did, but it's the same stuff. It's the same love of figuring this out. Now, the founder of Avid, of Lightcraft, who started in 2004, Elliot Mack, he designed the Roomba robot.
Yes. It's amazing.
And
great.
there was one and only one thing that made the Roomba robot possible and made him possible to design it, and it was parametric CAD from Parametric, the company. But without that, he just never would have been able to design the thing. It's just too complicated.
Sure.
And everything is too interrelated. Do you know that robot came out at $200 in 2000?
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah.
So Elliot and I
A classic.
have a deep love of what essentially, call it CAD, call it whatever you want, but call it a tool that will help you turn your creativity into reality. That's what Lightcraft's about. That's what parametric was about. And that's what I wanted from computer vision and never got.
I think it's brilliant that you said, specifically that it's a CAD system for filmmaking, which is kind of a brilliant way of looking at it. I never thought of it that way, but I totally understand what you're saying.
And CAM. It's also about like running the machines. So like, it's gonna. I'll give you an example on Lightcraft. Because one of the things, there's all this talk about AI, and we're going to use AI, right? But my son Lucas used to say, when he was little, would say, "You're not the boss of me."
Right.
You're not the boss of me. And he was like 5 or whatever, right? And we want to say that to AI. In the other, we are the boss of you. We are the boss of you. You're not the boss of me. AI basically thinks it's the boss of everyone. Give me a prompt, I'll make the stuff. Right. And it doesn't work. And also, it's not filmmaking. It's chat roulette. And and you make one nice shot that's almost there, and then you make it again, and it's not almost there anymore. And AI is incredibly powerful, but it is it's not parametric. It's statistical. It's a statistical system that basically, like would people say, if they really say, please use random statistics to create something that looks like this. And it's like, okay, now change it. It's like, well, no, we're doing random statistics here. That's what we do.
Right.
So, and using AI that way. And by the way, so many people believe the future is going to be make a scene with Tom Cruise and you're going to prompt it. And you're just going to prompt your way to a whole movie. Prompt your way to 1,500 shots in a movie. That's what's going to happen. And I've had people basically say, that is absolutely going to happen. And Elliot and I are like, that is absolutely not what's going to happen. Those people will commit suicide. They will all be dead.
That's right.
Either that or Shearing Plow will come out with a drug that allows you to do 10,000 prompts and not kill yourself.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that you can't, there's no, I'm all for AI. That's wonderful. All this stuff is very powerful in its own way, but it has to, we have work to do. We just have work to do as artists.
Well, and
it's called filmmaking.
It's called filmmaking.
It's called filmmaking.
And it's a really tough thing. I mean,
if the tool doesn't give you, if the tool doesn't give me the controls that I need to do the thing that I'm here to do, then it's not a tool for me. Then that's just what it is. And so even in the day when you can prompt every shot, I'm still going to be if this comes true, right? I'm still going to hire Richard Crudo for his eye so the shot looks good and we move the camera in space to get the shot we want and light it the way we want and have total control over every element. It can't give me something that maybe is okay. It has to be exactly what I want it to be.
Right. So I got to tell you a story. So Lightcraft Spark Story is our front end. So this is the thing that has 3D in it, but easy 3D, not like Blender, not like, Maya, not like that stuff. And it's really cool. We had somebody on the line on Zoom, as a cinematographer, and we were making stuff, just ourselves. And I said to him, well, why don't you make something? And so then Elijah was running it. But the guy was giving the direction, and he said, do this, go here, do that, go there, do that, do that. Okay, so he did it. It didn't take him any time. And then we watched the shot, and we're like, wow, that's really good. And I said, you started out behind the pillars. What do you call that? And I had never heard this. He said it's a dirty shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I never heard that.
Yep.
And I've been around.
It's a great one. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get
It's
a little
dirty
dirty
shot.
down there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it looks so much better behind the pillars.
Just looks cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a little bit of filmmaking experience can do to make something better, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because like the thing is, like, I think that what people don't recognize about like why most AI looks bad, right, is because it and this is going to sound really mean, and I don't mean it to be mean, but if you say walk into a bookstore, right, almost every book in the bookstore is bad. Almost every one. There's 40 that are great, and there's 200 that are pretty good, and then there's 15,000 that are just terrible books, right?
Yeah.
The AI is taking all of those books and undifferentiatedly processing the average of the books. The bulk of the books are terrible and utterly mediocre. And it goes, well, here's the top of the bell curve for that shot. And what it comes out to be is completely boring and average. And even if it came up with a brilliant shot, I still have to be able to look at it and say, that's what I want. And I have the taste to understand this is beautiful. And that's something an AI just can't do. If you were if there was an AI we were in the same situation with AI artistically, but it was for producing movies, right? It would be like, okay, well, I'm gonna pull the arm on the slot machine and see if we have money to film today. Like, that's not a good way to make a movie.
I heard a phrase which I love, is that AI, especially like 2D, 2D prompting, gives you the average of the past.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And I thought that's really pretty clear. But by the way, AI can do more than that, and that's what I want to talk about. So we want to go from end to end. All right, from when you're just thinking about it, all the way to when you're making final shots. And we want to make that faster and easier and automate it. And we already do some of that now. And we want to do a lot more of it. I lost my train of thought for a second.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, it's just kind of like the difference between.
It's from end to end. So, in order to do that, you have to have something that goes from end to end. You can't start with one thing, and then go to another thing, and then go to another thing. It won't work. You have to have something that goes from end to end. And when you use your eyes and you look out in the world, that world is 3D. Even with people who only have one eye, it's 3D. As you move your head a little bit.
Yeah.
The problem with 3D is it's always been seen as this incredibly complicated thing, like Blender. And so what Elliot said, it just has to be easy. And it's interesting. And lately, he's had something he said that I really like. And he said, one person. Yes, there's teamwork, but you have to start with one person doing stuff. If they can't get going, like, so for example, do not require, motion cap. It's like, Barbara, will you get in here and walk over to there and do this? And she's like, I'm doing the laundry. Just get out of my face.
Right.
Instead, it's all like you can sort of, rev up that engine alone at night at your desk. And you can, so for example, one of the things is that we're just now working on is that we're going to drive people with your hand. So you're going to run the iPhone and get a path. So if you want to get them to walk forward and then sit down, you can do that.
So you're using the phone as a motion capture.
Absolutely. It's yes. And then, one of the pieces of Lightcraft that hasn't come out that much, but on this project, you talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. That's like not good enough. Like Pixar is beyond a giant.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So we're standing on the shoulders of Pixar because they put in a system for layering, and they understood that if you're going to make something that can be easily changed, you need layers. And so imagine this.
You're talking about USD, I'm assuming.
USD,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the layering that USD offers.
Yep.
So what happens is, you drive it with your hand, but it's only a layer. So it's a little like how you make music with multiple tracks.
Right.
So like you're like, okay, this is the body, move the body. Okay, this is the head. All right, and you just do like 4 or 5 tracks,
Mm-hmm.
and you're there filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Filmmaking,
Exactly.
and then you say, okay, smooth it out.
Yep.
Right, and now also AIs can do 3D. So we're 3D. You give that 3D to the AI, and you say, smooth it out.
Yep.
And now you've got a smooth 3D.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then it's a tool that's helping you do something. Like
Right.
Like
and
you are the one who's solving the problem, and this is the tool you use to solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So look, I mean, we're filmmaking people. We Elliot won the Emmy for Prevision, a tool that was used on 30 shows. I got the Emmy. Avid got the Oscar twice.
Mm-hmm.
For once for the the film composer, and once again for mix to pix on audio.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, look, we come from that. We live and breathe it, but we don't accept it as the given.
Absolutely.
The given is filmmaking,
Yeah.
not the techniques that are used for filmmaking today.
100%. I completely agree with you. Like, because I have listen to any other episode of the show. I have loads of great things to say about the power of AI and what it will allow us to do. Like, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for all sorts of different tools, but you have to remember that that's the tool. Like, it's not there to solve the problem for you. You're the one who's solving the problem. That's what your job is.
Right. And AI in some ways is, amazing, but we want AI to say, you are the boss of me.
You
I'm
are the boss.
You.
Yeah.
You're the boss of me.
Yeah.
And you say to the AI, I'm the boss of you.
Yep.
And
that's it.
And we can make it stick. And one of the big ways we can make it stick is because we're 3D. And 3D is exact, right? I hate that phrase. It is what it is. But 3D, it's true. The 3D is what it is.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. So
I know we're going to jump around a little bit. I'm sure people are going to want to know, like how did you get into how did you come into Avid? Like, because I know people are going to want to know that information, because that's going to lead to like what you did. Obviously,
I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you. And I'm going to tell you that fundamentally, it's about not accepting something. It's if you look at how innovations happen. Like I was in this book about entrepreneurship, and I think the phrase I had there was, if necessity is the mother of invention, well, who's the father? And the father is frustration. So like if you don't really have frustration, then you got nothing.
Yeah.
Something is getting in the way of me doing the thing. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So what happened was I went on from computer vision and then to another company and then to Apollo Computer, which was the top company for making engineering workstations. And I was in charge of a engineering workstation called the DN580 that was to compete with silicon graphics. And it was a high-speed polygon processing thing, and that was my baby. And I went to my boss, and very often I'll promote something because it's really what I want to do, like, going to computer vision and getting CAD. I went to my boss and I said, I was going to announce this product. I said, nobody's going to understand this. The Salesforce has no clue about 3D or polygons or any of this stuff, nothing. So I said, we need to make a video. Because I had been making videos for home stuff, and long ones, 20 minutes, and it was incredibly hard to edit. It was just couldn't believe how hard it was to edit. I just couldn't believe it. And so what I figured was, if I got a big enough budget, I could use a computerized editor. Essentially what I thought an Avid was. I thought it existed already.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got a budget, $3,000 back then. So that's like $15,000 today or something. And I looked for a company downtown, and in this book that tells you everything they have. And they had all kinds of good stuff. So I'm like, okay, we'll go there. So I make an appointment. I shoot this video on 3/4 inch, and I go there with all these 3/4 inch tapes. And, I'm not exactly experienced. And so I go there and they say, where's your script? I said, I don't have a script. I'm just going to work it out on your computerized editor.
Right.
And they're like, huh, really? So they said, well, when do you need this? I said, well, tomorrow. We're going to have it done tomorrow. And they said, just call your boss, call it off. It's not going to happen. And I said, no, it's going to happen. We've got to do it. So they basically gave me a window burn-in and they said, do a paper edit and come back and we'll do an online edit, which we did. And that video was a huge success. But there was a moment, I said, I want you to show me how to use this. They figured it's going to be easy to use. So we go into the room. It's dark. There's a machine there, nice color monitor, and then a green monitor. And a green monitor, a little bit like, what are you talking about here? But so they go and they say, okay, hit P is play. I hit P and it starts playing nicely. And spacebar is stop. Hit spacebar and it stops. And then I hit R, and it's R for refund. So I hit R, and it goes, and I'm like, is there a tape deck here? And they're like, well, of course, there's a tape deck. I said, I thought this was a computerized editor. And they said, it is a computerized editor. And I said, but what good is it if it's got tape decks? And they said, it's frame accurate. You can do any. I said, is it going to be any faster? And it's like, no, but it's frame accurate. And I was like, are you kidding? Is this the best there is? And they're like, this is a CMX 3400. This is the best best, computerized editor out there.
Right.
But they didn't have an idea of nonlinear editing.
There's no idea. There's Steam.
So
I
left with that. The tape was a huge success. And then I ended up getting roped into making a video for every new product.
Right.
So I was making a lot of these things. And when I left that studio, I had a plan. I hatched what I thought was a surefire plan, which was I will wait. I will wait until somebody does the most obvious thing in the world, which is makes a nonlinear editor that I can use. Right? That was my plan. And so meanwhile, I'm doing that. And I get to the videos keep getting harder and harder, right? More and more paint box and all this stuff. And it was always an 8-hour session. And there was this huge tension to get through an 8-hour session and be done. You couldn't have 9 hours. It just was, that was it. So I remember this was in May of 1987. I'm editing with this guy named, slipping my mind now. But anyway, I'm there. We get done with this high tension, fancy edit. I said, I'm never coming back. That's it. I'm gonna make a nonlinear editor. I'm never coming back.
Yep.
His name was Mark. And so I left in 87. And I sort of was showing people the idea for Avid. And here's the thing. I mean, people's careers, I think, do have these hyperspace moments, because I was going to do Avid at Apollo. And my boss, this guy, Mike Gallup, he was like 6'5", incredibly deep voice. He called me into his office and he sort of leaned over the desk and he said, Bill, do you really want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I really want to do this. He said, well, how hard is it to get money to make a workstation in this company? I said, it's pretty hard. And he said, do you really think you're going to get your money for this product here? And I said, I don't know. He said, look, if you want to do this, you get the hell out of here. And a week later, I left.
Right.
And probably if I hadn't left, it would have been encumbered into Apollo. So I always have a sweet spot for Mike Gallup.
Well, I think that because I remember arguing with other filmmaking friends at the time because they were like, nonlinear editing is going to ruin movies. This was their point of view. Like this is going to destroy everything, because now you're not going to think about stuff. Like everything's going to move to, it's all going to be like music videos. And I was like, or it saves you a bunch of time and you can make more movies this way, and it frees you up. Like, and people wanted the restrictions that they had been living under. Like they preferred it.
Yeah.
To make that transition is a massive mental leap for people.
Well, obviously they were wrong.
They were quite wrong.
But it's a little more complicated than that, because if the editing rate, once nonlinear editing occurred, went up, right? Mm-hmm. So you have more edits. And what that means for an editor, so like, I don't know what the actual rate is, but if you say, okay, your actual editing rate is X, and so you need to achieve goodness
6
or
cuts
greatness.
per blade, right.
And now it's 2X. They have to do more work.
Absolutely, sure.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a result of the freedom, as opposed to that's a result of an imposition. Like because like you have like great filmmakers. It's not like, David Fincher's making a movie and he's cutting it and he's like, well, I'm not cutting enough in this 5-second shot, so we got to cut more.
They're going to do what they.
They're going to do what they want to do, and I think that's really the underlying theme, is that what you want is to be able to do what you want to do, and nothing dumb like technology should stand in the way of that.
Yeah, and I don't think I think Avid led to more quality.
Absolutely.
Than less. Yeah. Because I
agree.
I think people basically worked harder. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think it necessarily made their life easier, because you're right, with some of the limitations, there's only something you can do. And so you just live with that. But once you have the Avid, you don't have those limitations. You can't say we're out of time. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Well, I think that what is always good for the artistic experience is like what you're choosing as an artist, as a filmmaker or whatever, is like you're choosing to engage with these problems. You have an idea of a movie you want to make or whatever it is. You're saying, there's a bunch of problems I want to face and try and solve, right? And so you're hitting those limitations every day. The problems are the limitations, right? And so if you're thinking about it properly, like you hit a wall or you hit something, you're like, how am I going to do this? And then you think your way around it. And by thinking your way around it, it probably comes out better than if you had pre-planned it in the other old way.
And there's that with one person, but I think there's going to be this, so Elliot is the main product designer. So, Lightcraft is Elliot's company. It pre-existed me for a long time.
Yeah, but you saw in him something about what you saw in him something that you inspired you from what you did.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
No.
Right.
I brought a hyperspace button.
Yeah,
I pressed it many times.
Amen.
I was like, I'm pressing this button, one of which was, this is a good story. He originally got me to come in where he had a $180,000 system called Prevision. He had a $95,000 system called Halide. And Halide to this day is in France going every night for a soap opera. And every night soap opera. They've done 1,800 episodes.
That's insane. That's
and
crazy.
It's still going.
Yeah.
And but he said to me, well, if we invest some money, we can get the cost down from $95,000 to $45,000. And so I said, okay, I put the money in for that. And we did it. We took about 6 months and we had this product. And we go out to sell it. And he said, I actually had a lot of problems with the customers. He said, for example, they would not pay for a technical day on set. So we would come in on the day of shooting and this big technical product and have to sort of work out the bugs under the pressure of when people are starting. They just wouldn't pay for that time, which was really crucial. So that just made it like incredibly stressful. It's like, oh, good, we got a new movie. Oh, good, I need even more tranquilizer.
Yeah, right.
And so then we were going to go sell this thing to, and he said, oh, I'm having trouble with them. So I said, okay, let me do it. So I got on the phone with her, and she's a producer, and she said, I want 2 systems for 6 months. And I said, so you want something for free? And I said, no, it's just on evaluation for 6 months. And then if we like it, then we'll buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, isn't that kind of like something for free for
Right.
6 months?
Uh-huh.
And so I gave her a quote for half price
Mm-hmm.
for the whole time. She got some other company to do it,
Mm-hmm.
at what she wanted. But then, I mean, this is a hyperspace button thing. I sat down with Elliot. I said, if you don't really like working with the customers, I said, there's only a few things you can choose in a company. One of them is the customers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct. Yeah.
And if you don't really like that, why do it? Why should we do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how would you feel if we just canceled this product and just didn't bring it to market? And he's like, great. And
Right.
and he said, well, what are we going to do in exchange? And I was like, I don't know.
Right.
know. And
Right.
and the way I looked at it was, it's really easy. If you know you don't want to do something, then don't freaking do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you don't know what you're going to replace it with, who cares?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so we
Yeah.
just went forward, and I actually love that moment of like, we're changing direction. It's like, well,
Right.
which direction? Like, I don't know.
Exactly. We're
You
not
know, it
doing this
reminds
though.
me when I was in college and I was getting my doing my thesis for my Masters of Architecture, and I thought I had a plan and I had my whole idea of what my thesis was going to be. And then my advisor's like, no, that's a terrible idea. That's not a good thing. And he explained to me why it was bad, and he was right. And then I was like, but I had this whole plan and I don't know what to do. And so I spoke to one of my friends, and he came up to me and goes, you know what I would do if I were you is I would make a list. I would make a list of all the things you like to do, and then make another list of all the things you don't like to do. And what you should do for your thesis is do as many things as you can on the first list and avoid as many of the things that you can on the other list. And you'll probably come up with something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Right.
Well, what you're saying is related to, I have a lot of theories and a lot of ways of like, that, like to sort of guide people and really most of what I did in this company was hyperspace on Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is
He's a great
probably
guy.
like
And he's going to be on as well. I'm going to have him on in the podcast as well. He's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I'd probably say that there's probably 7 hyperspace button presses,
Mm-hmm.
and they're big. They're all big. They're really big. Like, dumping the. We were trying to use a remote box with a GPU card in it, and then we decided that wasn't going to work because of latency, and so we just said, screw it. We're going to put it on the iPhone. How much can the iPhone do? Doesn't matter because the other thing is wrong.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Right. That was a hyperspace button.
Well, because essentially what you're saying is like I was saying, it's like it's good for artists to come up against problems so they solve them and think their way around them. What is bad is when you have to resolve old problems or you're solving other people's problems over and over again, instead of solving the problems I want to be solving, which is how do I get my movie made? Like, what is the story I'm telling? If I have to be like, how do I solve this motion capture problem? Like, why is that my job now? Like, I'm trying to tell a story, and to try to get that out of the way, right, is the incredible power of something like Lightcraft.
Well,
Well, I get plugged directly. Yeah, I get plugged into the real problem is I'm trying to make a good movie.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's where I get to spend my time thinking.
But so I'm going to tell you the key to happiness right here, right now.
Hit it.
Okay.
Right? And it's very simple. And, people think that money might be it. Absolutely not it.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible lack of money might be a bad idea. But the model that I use with people is energy. And the issue is you want to be increasing energy. Mm-hmm. And to some extent, the details do not matter. So, and here's the thing that is interesting. So Joe Rice, who did the user interface for Avid, went on to start another company that ended up being worth over $1 billion. It was called QuickBase, and he sold it into it. And he came to me and he said, I'm thinking about this thing. What should I do? And he said, I probably should make a business plan. And this is a little bit like the Wall Street Journal thing.
Right.
And I said, do you want to make a business plan? He's like, no, I don't even know how to make a business plan. And I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, I just want to start coding. I know what I said. So go start coding.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And he came back in about like 6 weeks and said, this is real. This is happening. But to me, that was an energy play.
Mm-hmm.
It was what's going to increase your energy or also what's going to decrease your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is people have an amazing ability to know that something will decrease their energy.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, they go ahead and do it.
They choose it anyway.
They choose it anyway.
Well, it's a form of procrastination, and filmmakers
exactly.
do this all the time. It's like, you know what? I'm going to write the treatment for the movie that I'm not going to actually do. I'm just going to write the treatment over and over and over and over and over and over again. Or I'm going to work on a plan like for a script that's going to be 7,000 pages because I don't actually have the courage
just
to actually
ask
edit
her out,
down.
man.
Well, I think it's slightly different here because procrastination, I think, has its place.
Sure.
So what it does is it like I've had things where I said, I'm not going to procrastinate on this. I'm going to start on this 2 weeks ahead. And it's terrible. You spend all this time doing stuff. You spend more time on it than you should be when if you had procrastinated and left it to the end, it would be better. So, to me, I would say the issue I'm talking about here is about bad decisions. And I would say that one really good bad decision is that I know this will reduce my energy and I'm going to do it.
Yes, right.
And why are you going to do it? My parents want me to do it. My boss wants me to do it. I think it's the thing I have to do. I'll never get anybody to look at my script unless I do this.
And all of this can be summed up under I am afraid. Like almost all of those things. Like you're just like, I'm afraid of doing this thing. So I'm going to do the thing that's acceptable, that will lessen my energy, and I won't have to actually confront what I want.
Well, that's a fairly big thing. You might be right. That it's about fear.
I may be projecting.
Usually fear is usually driving a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so like, why do people do the things that they know will reduce their energy? It could be out of fear that they won't be accepted unless they have a business plan or something like that. But what I would say is that it's the easiest thing. It's not that easy, but it's just, if you say, I say, don't do anything that lowers your energy.
Yeah.
Just don't.
100%. I agree.
Right. Just
I
no,
agree.
all the time.
Yep.
And people think, oh, I can't do that. My boss wants this, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times you can go to your boss and say, when I think of doing this, my energy collapses.
Yeah.
What if we did this? I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And because I've brought this up on the show before, but like when we're shooting, we were shooting at this studio downtown, stage downtown, and it was the biggest shoot that we'd ever done, biggest shoot that I ever directed. And I would get to the studio, park, and I'd start walking towards the gate, and I'd be walking towards the door, and that's when the anxiety would come up, like, oh man, what if I mess this up today, or what, and it would start to like well up in me. And so I would run the last 30 feet to the door. Like and I did this every morning. I chose to run because if I ran, then I wouldn't slow myself down with being scared. Like my energy wouldn't drop because I wouldn't be like twiddling with all the, fear and
well, that's an interesting thing. That would be sort of energy management. Like you would be saying, look, if I go slowly, my fears are going to take hold of me. And I know it's going to drop my energy. So in some ways, you're like, I'm not going to do that thing. The walking slowly like everybody normally sees to the door. I'm going to get in there faster because I know I need to.
Choose the higher energy state. I think that's a great way to say it. No,
there's another thing that you did, Bill, which I think was very, very important because, you mentioned the earlier editing systems, right? And the early editing systems, like you had your 8 hours and you better get it right? Yeah. Because that's it. And then you have no choice. So you don't have the opportunity to try things differently. You don't have the opportunity to experiment. You don't have to.
Right.
And what you did with the Avid is like, what if we could, have we tried an edit this way? And the risk of trying something new became a freedom that editors had that they never had before. Right. And the same thing is true with Lightcraft, right? It's like, what if we did something like this? Because you're basically lowering the risk so that people can try something creative and try something different.
Yep.
And I think that is a big, big difference. And that's what's so liberating to independent filmmakers, because independent filmmakers are the key factor of trying something new and not necessarily doing whatever the studio system told them they have to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Right. Yep. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like there's an aspect to, because you bring up like using Blender and whatnot. Like I think that especially with technical people, we have this, we lean on this idea of technology because it seems to give us control over whether or not things look perfect, and it's not very important that things look perfect.
Yeah.
Like I think it is way better to get things done and out and in people's heads than it is to look flawlessly whatever. And my argument for that is like, you know, you hear people say all the time like, oh, CG ruins movies, right? And I'm like, I promise you it's the screenplay that ruined this movie. I promise you. Because like if you go back and you look at, say, the original Star Wars, like by comparison, the visual effects of the original Star Wars are lousy compared to the visual effects that we can do today. But the reason why nobody cares is because the story is great. Like you're watching the movie and you're in the movie. Like it doesn't matter that you can see the boxes around the X-Wing fighters.
Well, but here's the thing. You don't see them. That's the thing. Right. So I don't know if you know Lumiere, when he did the original demos in France, it was of a train coming and the audience would jump under their chairs.
Exactly.
They literally, and the other thing is, you know, like on the horn things or the music, you know, had lots of noise on those things. Yep. People did not hear it.
They don't hear the noise.
The signal was so strong that the noise was, they didn't even perceive it as noise.
Yeah.
Right.
And your brain is in the music. Like you're in the music.
Right. Yeah. And so that's always been the case that as long as it's, I don't know if there's a phrase for it, but as long as and I'll tell you something on that. So, so basically the beginning of Avid, the question was, how good a picture can we have on the Avid? And there were three choices. There was awful, terrible, and really terrible. So we're like, well, we can do better than awful, but we can't, or we can do better than really terrible. And so we went with awful. And it was 128 by 96. That's how big it was. And we blew it up to 2x, so it would be physically bigger.
Right.
But and people would say to me and said, that's a pretty bad picture quality, you know, and editors would look at it and go, well, I can't use that. I mean, if I've got a wide shot, I have to see whether people are blinking. And I can't even tell who it is, let alone whether she's blinking.
Right.
And people said, you know, you should use videotape, you know, just get the quality up and later. And I was like, no, it's going to be digital, all digital. It has to be all digital.
Yeah.
But there's, basically we said, we'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to get figured out.
It's going to get better. Yes, it's awful. And so
believe it.
Then the question was, when we went out to the market, we had no idea. When they say, "What's your target market?" and we're like, "We don't have one." And so, what do you mean you don't have one?
Was George Lucas's editing machine, whatever the hell that was called, that didn't?
That was all Laserdisc. That was Laserdisc. That had pretty picture quality.
Right.
That was completely a different animal. But you had to make Laserdiscs, and it had real problems. Yeah.
So, man.
So we go out there with no target market, and we had people look at the system, and they said to us, don't even show this to film editors. And I was like, why? And they said, well, because film editors hate computers. and they're going to see the computer and they hate it. So don't even bother. It's like, that's not a problem. I don't know any film editors. And we didn't,
Too bad
we
for
didn't
those
show,
guys, I guess.
we didn't show it. We didn't show it to any film editors. So
Right.
we get to NAB, and Apple had thrown a party for us. They put a lot of effort into helping us.
Amazing.
And we had this suite, and we had this party, and all these people there. And Kurt Raleigh, who was the head of sales, he said, we need to have forms for ordering. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not ready to buy, really. And he's like, we should have the forms. So we had the forms. And it turned out people wanted to buy the system, so we would go into the bedroom part of the suite with our forms.
Yeah.
And and we took orders on that. And I talked to these people, and I said, what's going on? You're all film people. All 5 of you orders are film people. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, it's film. And I said, well, what do you mean it's film? And I said, it acts just like film. You can have a track, you can change it and make it longer, shorter, whatever. It's just like film. And I was like, who knew?
Yeah, right. There it is, man. That's it. Well, because go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, not knowing stuff is a real benefit. So, so I just didn't know. I'd never seen a film edit in my life, never seen a film editor, never seen a film machine, didn't even know what those things are called.
Right.
And, when we did the big demo, which was Top Gun, we were editing with edited footage. You don't do that. You should never do that.
Right.
But we did it.
Right. Exactly.
We edited with edited footage.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like I think that people get in the wrong mindset where they it's like with AI stuff, right? They both complain that it's bad and they complain that it doesn't do what it says it's going to do. And I'm like, but you said you didn't want it to do that. So why? It's like the classic joke. The food here is the Catskill Mountain Resort, and it's just like, oh, the food here is awful and such small portions. And like the thing is, like, what you want is you need to know that you're the one who's in control all the time.
Right.
Like you decide whether what gets released is your decision, and if it's bad, that's on you. And if it's good, that's on you. But it's you.
So I don't know if we're coming to the end or not, but I want to make some predictions. So I want to have these predictions on the record.
Okay.
All right. So number one, I think we're going to make something that's really easy to use in Spark Story, and that we've already seen the people who are testing it. They're like, wow, I can do this. And one example of this, Elijah Welch is our president. No filmmaking background at all. I mean, maybe occasionally taking a video on the iPhone. But he's like our best demo person on Spark Story. It's kind of amazing. Right. So we're going to make it really easy to use, and we have to, because otherwise the front end doesn't do what it should do.
Sure.
All right. The other prediction I'm going to make is that we will go from one end to the other. Now, by the way, no one's ever done that. That has never been done, not even close. And for the most part, a lot of people will say, well, and you can't do it either because it's never been done.
Right.
And what makes you guys so special? And what I would say is that we have Elliot. I mean, he's like, he can do it.
Yeah, that gives you a pretty good chance.
Yeah,
For sure.
And what that means is that you're going to be able to work on Spark Story, work out your shoot, and then go to, we're debating on names, but Spark Shoot or Spark Cine or something, which is that's how you shoot. But the thing that's going to do is everything you want to do. All right. So when you go for a shot, it's like camera at 5'3" is over here. This thing, every lights here. That shoot. Okay, ready, shoot. And can we get 3 pages a day instead of 1 page a day?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think we can do it. I think we can have integer multiples of pages per day.
Oh,
so if you got one,
if you can do that, that's
2, or maybe 3.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
That's huge. That's what.
That is actually the
if
thing.
you can do that, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
That is, you're
that's
absolutely
literally
right. If you can reduce the amount of time on or how much you shoot, or increase the amount of what you can shoot in a day,
Yes.
and basically reduce your shoot days.
Yep.
That's what you should be doing. That's what should be the focus. Not like I'm going to use AI to replace all of this background stuff. No, just reduce your time on set, and you can still do it. And that's much easier.
That is giving me time.
Okay, I'll make another prediction. Which when I tell people, they say that's not going to happen.
Okay. All right, let's have it.
But here it is. What I say is, you get on set and you have issues not working. All right. What I say is, do not work it out on the set. Go back into Spark Story. You already have everything. Right. Just work it out and then go forward again. That's what I think will happen. People say, no, you're on the set. They're not going to go back to something else. And I'm going to be like, well, yeah, you know what? They figured it out to begin with on Spark Story. Of course they're going to go back to that. You know, and they don't want to hand wave. You know, being on set is $1,000 a minute, at least. You know, and you don't really, you know, you could probably send somebody off and you say, figure this out, block it out. Let's look at it. Then you bring it to the set. You look at it on Spark Story. Yeah, that's good. Let's shoot it. Now you go into shooting.
I have a good analogy for you, and this is what I've always thought about in terms of Spark Story, and even Jet Set and all that stuff that you guys have been working on. This is something that's an analogy that I've said on the podcast, and it actually originated from our good friend Richard Kuda, who you guys have met as well. But his analogy was back when he was doing films back in the 80s and the 70s, and it was shot on film itself. You had to plan your shoot days really well, because otherwise you're going to waste everyone's time, and you had a limited resource, right? So you would plan it like it was a heist, right? Like, here's everything we're going to do today. Get it done. When you switch
Ocean's 11, get in there and do it right.
And when you switch to digital cameras, like basically like, oh, I can just hit record and just keep going and going and going. Suddenly, you just shoot everything and then hope that the editor is going to figure it out later, right? And so it becomes more of he calls it a smash and grab, where you just shoot everything and we'll figure it out in post, all of it. And what you're essentially saying is like, no, Spark Story is how you plan the heist.
That's where you plan the heist.
I love that. I love that heist idea, because people get it right away. They get it. Everything's going to be figured out. You know?
Plan the heist and then shoot it. And it takes time to plan a heist. The heist itself is very short.
Right. Yeah,
but to plan the heist takes time, and you don't want to be spending $1 million.
Because anybody who makes movies knows, making a shooting day of making the movie is you may as well like put a big pile of money in the floor, light it on fire, and say, everybody get as much done as you can before the fire goes out. That's what the day is.
It's crazy. So you've done Spark Story, and hopefully you have a better story. You're happy with it. And by the way, everybody knows it. Like, rehearse. One of the ways where I think we get more pages is that don't rehearse on the stage at $1,000 a minute.
Yes. Oh man.
But that's what they do. You look at these videos that say that there's like 8 rehearsals. There's this rehearsal. There's the camera rehearsal. They're like, come on, guys.
Why are we paying for this?
Right. Just get it all right.
We have a whole thing about, we call it VidViz, but I mean, you can easily work with Spark Story to do it. Essentially, it's the same philosophy. Rehearse it, get it, and then when you shoot it, you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. If you're spending no money when you're rehearsing, then you actually get value out of your rehearsal.
So now, you're not. One of the other things that happens, and we are going to be maniacal about file management. You are not going to have to deal with file management ever.
God bless you. You're saying all the right things.
Right.
This sounds very sexy, Bill.
We already
just saying, man.
We already do it. And we already go end to end, but when we do it in Spark, it's going to be even better. And I'll tell you, like, when we're working this stuff, and you got, like, I don't know, lately there was something, and our customer said it's upside down. Well, why was it upside down? Because the arrows on this thing and the arrows on that thing are different, and we have to get it right. But guess what? Once you get it right, then it's right. And we're going to do that at times. So, but now what happens is you got these footage and you're going into post, and we are going to get you into post. So, just a quick story on James Cameron. James Cameron, on the second movie on what do you call it?
Avatar 2.
Titanic.
Oh, Titanic.
Titanic. He shot 6 million feet of film. I think that comes out to about 600 hours. So it's basically a 300-to-1 shooting ratio. But he had it installed in his guest house, in his pool house. And so he could walk out of his house, go to the pool house, and that's where they edited the movie. And they had the biggest Avid ever made. And what he would say was, happiness is a warm Avid. And, and what that means is it's ready to go. In those days, it took a lot to actually get it going. But so imagine that you've shot, and what I'm hoping is that you said, you're going to have this many days of shooting, and you're like, we did it in only 1/3 of that much. Who gets to spend the extra money? All right. But then you have all of this footage, and Lightcraft's going to manage it. It's going to name it. It's all under our control, and it's going to go forward into post. And the thing is that we can control the editors. Some of them have really good, like Premiere, really good interfaces. And so we can be like, oh, you want to do scene 1? All right. You want all the starred takes? Boom. All in the bins, all in everything ready to go. Sit down. Your happiness is a warm Avid, and maybe happiness is a warm, Premiere system. But it's going to be warm. You're not going to be sitting down at cold things that you have to do a ton of crap before you do it.
Yeah, because you don't want to be burning our time. Like we're here to make a movie. Like you don't want to burn through that creative time by dealing with file management. You don't want to have to burn through that creative time by, like, those are problems that should be solved already. Like that should not be a problem that we also have to
and what
solve.
I would say, again, a prediction, is if we've done our job right, you're not dealing, when you use Lightcraft, when you look on Apple, you don't deal with crap when you're using you don't have to like get me the UID or this or, you don't need. So what I would say is that we're going to do it, and you're not going to be tortured by, all this sort of grunt work.
Right.
And then the last piece I would say on my predictions here is that we're going to do post. We're going to do post. I just talked about that, but then we're going to do special effects. And what we're going to say is that we're going to let you take this footage and improve it with a whole bunch of tools. You know how like the carpenters have all these tools right there with that outline ready to go. Some of them are AI tools. Some of them are not. All right. Sometimes you want to just use Nuke.
And 100%.
Right. And you're just like, I don't care. I know what to do. And this is what you're going to do. I'm the boss of you. Nuke always says that. It never says. Right. And then you're going to do some AI and so forth. But in this thing called Forge, you're going to be doing this. And the output is final pixels. So I think.
So Forge is your last step into the whole process.
It's the last step. But here's the thing. These things build on each other. So Forge of a year ago and now Forge of today, they're going to do a lot more. And stuff doesn't go out of style. It doesn't become unimportant because it was last year, and so, for example, it's all based on the script. So the script moves through. I mean, people probably don't know this, but Lightcraft has integrated script. It's all done with Fountain, right? You can edit the script, right? You can edit the script with remote people. We keep track of the versions, all right? And you can keep track of everything on the script. And you can start with no script. And it will even help you make a script. Even if you don't know what you're doing, it's a structured editor. So it's like, exterior. It would just put it in. So and this is like inside the product.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's the dream. That's incredible. No, the thing is, I think that like from your story from beginning to end is that, you had an experience where you chose to essentially find a way to set yourself free of your situation and do the thing you want to be doing. And you've spent your entire career helping set people free. And that's what Lightcraft is about. And that's like all of this is clearing the way so that people don't get caught up in the nonsense. And that's what's exciting for me and Chris.
I got sort of a chill when you said that about setting people free, but that's That's
it's
really
100% what it is.
It really is kind of the whole career, you know.
No, it's beautiful,
Avid,
man. I think it's an incredible thing to be doing.
Lightcraft's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one thing one word, you wouldn't think one word is that big a deal, like post, right? Post. How big a deal is that word? So it's like, we took that word out. It's now just called production. It doesn't have that post thing in it. That's gone. And it's like, what do you think? Is that about the same amount of work? It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 times more work.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I got into this thing. I had no idea.
No.
Yeah.
It's incredibly tough. And I'll make one last, thing. So when you talk about standing on the shoulders of giants, standing on the Pixar, right? We're actually standing on the shoulders of NVIDIA because we worked with NVIDIA for a couple of years, and that's why it's all it's all UST. And we'll get back to more with NVIDIA. Standing on the shoulder of giants with Apple. I mean, we are using every ounce of Apple hardware that there is.
Sure.
I mean, we run in a browser, but it runs local 3D.
Right.
And another giant is Postgres database, a giant database. I mean, it runs huge things, open source, right? And then Supabase, which built all this real-time stuff on top of this. And one of the things I like to say is that we will be able to capture every piece of data on the film, every soundtrack, every attempt, every version, because there's layers. It doesn't take anything.
Yep.
But you're like, hey, yesterday you had something look really good. Let's see that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever had a case where capturing all of the data of a movie, all of it, was even considered. And now, if you look at like Supabase and stuff, it's like, give me a tough problem. What's this?
Yeah.
This is, there's something where somebody used Supabase or the underlying database for 2 trillion records. 2 trillion records.
Oh my God.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I use Supabase.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
unbelievable.
Yeah. And I didn't know I'll tell you better yet, Bill, I didn't know what Supabase was 2 months ago. I started to use it because I've been vibe coding and they're like, just use Supabase. And so,
really?
And it basically landed me into this corner. It's like, oh my God, I can do this. It's kind of amazing what it can, and I'm using it minimally.
Well, I'll give you an example. I said to engineers, I said, if you're on a plane and you're working this stuff, you want to do it locally.
Right.
And, you got to think about that, for the future. I think that's going to be important. I was assuming it wasn't there. And so one of the engineers, he goes, well, it's in there. I'm like, well, what do you mean it's in there? And it's like, yeah, well, Supabase has it. We implemented it. And, you can go offline. And then when you come back online, it syncs up.
Yep.
I'm like, you're kidding me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. This stuff, I mean, when we were doing Avid, everything was so hard. And you had to design hardware and now it's almost embarrassingly easy. You call yourself an engineer, that wasn't that hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to suffer like I suffered.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Bill, listen, I'm almost sure this is not going to be the only time we talk to you, and you probably would love to have you back on the podcast because I think I have a ton more questions. But I've been talking to you and Elliot for years, and I've been seeing the evolution that you guys have been doing and how your brains have been working, which is fascinating.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
And Daniel and Richard is our DP on our movie. He saw that they've been watching the demos progress of the product. So I know that we're going to be working together on our project in the future, but I wanted to make sure people knew about you and knew where you came from and the philosophy, because honestly, like I said, what you've done is you've liberated people in the 90s. You liberated filmmakers in a lot of ways, and I think that was an important part of what happened to filmmaking itself. And today you're doing it again because I
Here we
think
are
we
again.
need that evolution and we need that revolution to happen at one more time.
100%
So.
agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's interesting, this is the broadest and most detailed backgrounds I've ever done, right?
Right.
From college all the way through MIT and all the companies. And it's funny, nobody's ever said it that way, like you guys are saying that about, freeing people. It
Absolutely.
really has, but it's interesting. Like when you talk about something, you get somebody else's perspective, and it feels.
I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask
man.
permission to make a movie anymore. I want to just make the movie.
Exactly. Get to the business. That's the whole idea. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, huge thanks, man. This has been terrific, and thank you for all of the incredible work that you've done throughout your entire career. It's had a massive impact personally on my life, and I look forward to it continuing to do so. So this has been very exciting.
We'll have to see at some point whether my predictions become true.
We'll come back on the podcast.
We will revisit them as they happen. We'll say, "Remember, you said this on the podcast."
Well, that's what I wanted to say. And I want to say we're going to capture everything. Elliot might be like, Bill, you're not going to capture everything. You don't need to. I don't know. I think he will say that we will.
But
we'll see. It's nice to sort of write down a prediction where people can look at it and
and don't be afraid to try new things and to pivot.
Pivoting. Pivot into the unknown.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be the title for my book.
Pivot into the unknown.
Pivot into the unknown.
Amen.